Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Before you watch this battle report, if you haven't done it yet, go and check out the previous video, which is actually the matchup analysis regarding this game. I made a little bit of preparation matchup analysis on this game, so I recommend you to watch it before this battle report, because here I won't talk again about the matchup analysis, how I feel about this matchup in particular in this video. So let's move on. Let's start the battle. I'm facing Toby Thompson, who is a German player. So here you have both lists. I talked about it during the matchup analysis again. So here you can see it quickly with his 3 scoring unit that I highlighted, which is quite important. We are playing Breakthrough, so it has only 3 scoring unit, and that could be an issue on Breakthrough, definitely, especially if one of your scoring unit is a Mage Bunker, so that you can struggle sometimes to get it through the board. We are playing Counter Trust on map number 4. Here you have my spell selection. I talked about it also in the matchup analysis, so a good mix between some buffs with Hand of Glory, Word of Iron, and then a lot of Blast, and also the H-Spell, that is also a very good buff. And my opponent, he didn't have Magical Heirloom. To my taste, as an Ogre player, I like to have Magical Heirloom, to have the 5th spell. That is also a very nice double spell with Mighty Unbeliever, because you have 2 times the spell that can have the similar effect into close combat. So it's quite good to have both, to my taste. In this case, he decided to spare at this point and go without Magical Heirloom. And as you see, he didn't select the H spell in this game. He went with Wrath of God, the Breast Weapon, Smite the Unbeliever, and then he went for Trial of Fate instead of Hand of Even or Hereditary Spell, for example. Some very short to sum it up. He's quite low on scoring unit, meaning I know that if I can kill one scoring unit, the secondary should be mine, more or less. So I think it's hard for him to remove the Immortal if you consider the character setup that he has. He has no character that can beat easily my BSB, because of the 1-up arm save and the fact that he has only max AP2, so I'm not scared of his character, and that's often one of the weaknesses that you can have in the Immortal block if you are not featuring an Overlord. So in this case, I'm not scared of the potential duel that we might have during this game, and therefore it's quite hard for him to remove the Immortal because of the Zalamante standard. 2 scenarios that I was expecting, as I've told you in the matchup analysis, either a rush from his part or an avoidance. I expected the avoidance being the main scenario for me, because that's how I would have personally with his list. Also being myself an Ogre player, Wild Earth, I played from time to time Wild Earth, and recently again. I was thinking, if I'm facing my ID list in this matchup with Breakthrough, I mean board control is not needed, definitely I would play the drop game and then use avoidance, the mobility, to ensure that you get a draw on the scenario at least, and then use the rest of the pieces that are not scoring to hit at some point and take some points, and try to, it will be hard for him to avoid me getting the scenario as well, but at least he can take some points. And then the second approach is obviously a rush, and just try to start the game, push aggressively, chaff early on, position a lot of units to countercharge after the chaff. That also could have been an option, definitely, if we consider the fact that you want to win big. Maybe it's a 3-game tournament, so quite short. That's definitely a valid approach as well. I think that's the only way where he could really stop me to get the scenario, is really try to go for first, chaff early on with Tigers, and then push with all Hunter and stuff behind, ready to charge early on. I think that's the second option for him. My magical setup forces his Hunter to stay with the Tigers. Definitely cannot move alone. He has 2 regen Hunter. I have Quicksilver Lash. I also have Grave Cold, Mark for Doom, all nasty stuff that can hurt Hunters. So I think he has to stay with Tigers, at least with the Hunter with the regen. Deployment. So that was an interesting part. In this case, he won the roll for sides, so he took the bottom. As I've told you in matchup analysis, I would have done the same because I think the bottom is slightly better in this case. So I had top, and I went, as I've told you again in the matchup analysis, I made him start to drop just to make him do the choice, drop, not drop. Just to give him the choice. I wanted to see how it does, what he decides to do, and then adapt, because I was feeling confident I should be okay I should be ready to get his rush, to receive the rush and counter him. So I was ready with the fact that he could start the game. So in this case, he put first a unit of Yetis in a line formation in order to make sure that I need to be far away from him, because it's counter trust, he has Vanguard, so no big issue here. I started with a vassal unit on the left, so yeah, again, I saw in the matchup, when I analyzed the matchup, that this part of the board might be the part where I could get a good breakthrough, because yeah, I can put some unit, and especially if you consider the top part being very central and then split around the house was not really to my taste. So I ensure that I can claim some board space here by putting early on first slave unit. Then he put, I guess, a dog unit, maybe the single dog here behind, or maybe, yeah, I guess so. Either the dogs on the left or the single dog, and I put vassal unit and a unit of slave, and then he decided to drop everything to get the first turn. So I thought, interesting, he will try to probably rush me, be very aggressive, it will be a very open game, most likely no avoidance if he decides to drop and really go for first, so it will be interesting. So he went as the following: general within the tiger unit, 2 Great Weapon Giant, Hunter with a Tiger, Troll Eater Hunter, 6 Yetis, Mage Bunker with Shaman, BSB within Tiger, 3rd and last Giant, 3 Tusker, and the Tribesman. So if you consider the fact that at this point of time I had only 1, 2, 3 units dropped, I needed to first think about the scenario. What do I want to do in this game? How can I myself get 3 scoring units on the other part of the board, considering how he splitted his force? So obviously he's better on the left with 2 giant, 2 hunter, and possibly Yetis. He can be very strong with 5 hard hitting units and probably most likely a bit less to the right part of the board. But yeah, with Vanguard you never know. I mean, turn 1 this guy could be here, so he could very quickly move everything to the right part of the board. But I needed to ensure that I can go for the breakthrough on this left part of the board because of the map configuration. So that's why I decided to put my scoring unit on the left mostly. So I have 3 anointed on the side, a blunderbuss great weapon in a horde formation, my vassal that I dropped early on, slaves that I dropped early on, and then immortal with both character on foot, a pack of slaves. So that's basically 1, 2, 3, 4 scoring unit. Most likely this one uses shaft, so 3 scoring that need to be on the other part of the board. So that's where I should be able to ensure that. And then how can I stop his scoring unit getting into my deployment zone? That's the next question. So here you have 2 units that are on the far right of the board. I mean, very mobile. Most likely it's either I put really a piece like a tank or something here to the side if I really want to stop it, but at the same time I need to consider the fact that this guy can do 26 turn 1, these guys can do 26 turn 1, 26, 26, 26. So it's like a lot of units that can do with Vanguard movement 26. So if I put my tank right here, I will have some free spot. So I need to ensure that I can cover all my line and be very compact. So I decided to use the impassable to my advantage and basically cover all his possibilities to move with 26. If he moves here, I can charge. If he moves everywhere here, I can charge. In front of them, I can charge. Even I cover the front of the vassal if you want to take a spot because I'm no champion, I don't know why. Maybe use my unit against me at some point. I covered everything just to make sure that he has no good position to take early on. That was a little bit my idea. And I put the flexible pieces quite central, meaning Great Bull and the anointed that can, the incarnate, that can very easily go to the left, go to the right, be very flexible around this middle part of the board. And yeah, what I was telling you is how can I stop him from getting 3 scoring into my own half? The answer is it's the Mage Bunker. I mean, it's very central deployed, meaning if I put the tank and the bull and also Incarnate nearby. I mean, that's 3 units that should be able to block somehow. Either he go right, the tank should be able to do something. If he goes more to the left, I will have some tools around the impassable. So I really wanted mostly the tank to really make sure this unit can't go in my deployment zone. That was the idea. So yeah, that's it. A lot of talking, but this deployment stage was really important and took some time. So that's after Vanguard, and here you see he decided to move towards the left. So he puts the Troll Eater Hunter into the Yetis. Troll Eater Hunter, obviously a great counter to the Incarnates, and also this unit is maybe the only one in combination with stuff that can take down the Immortal. So I thought that was interesting. What surprised me is the guy here, BSB, is alone, so that might be a risk. And then we'll see what he does on turn 1. Ogre can turn 1. So he moves with the Yetis plus Troll Eater guy behind the wall. General unit moves here, letting me with a very long charge for infantry block. Here I think it was a 10, here it was more like something in 11, and here it's pretty easy, but I'm not confident going with 3 anointed against general unit that is very strong, especially with the giant covering for the flank and him being stand fast, all the stuff. So that's a very bad combat. So yeah, everything very solid on the left with 3 hunter plus a giant. He decided to move one of the giant to the right. So here, as you can see, it's, I mean, obviously a bit more strong on the left part, but still a lot of threats on the right, with Tusker moving forward and then 2 giant plus a unit of dog that you need to consider, because they can do a lot of attacks, so they can do some damage. I mean, if he charge against Incarnate, for example, he can kill like 1, 2 of me before I strike, and obviously I should be able to deal with him, but on the long run, if I lose too many models, then they will be out of the game. And here you see early on is moving with this guy, try to secure a unit in the deployment zone early on, because this part of the map will be for me very hard to reach with my models. Let's move on to the magic phase. So thought process was the following. He has only 4 spell, no hereditary and smite, so only smite that can really effectively support combat. I thought, yeah, I don't really need to keep the binding because very often when the opponent has a lot of buff for combat, you are keeping the binding scroll for a key combat and say, okay, you can't have this decisive buff, I stop it with the binding scroll. That's very often how I use the binding. In this case, it was not so decisive to keep it for the combat, because he has only Smite the Unbeliever that can really have a big impact on the combat. So I thought, okay, let's use the binding scroll, because it was like 7 dice against 4, I guess? 7 dice against 5, sorry. I thought, 5 dice, if you throw 4 dice comet, that's a risk that there is a comet turn 1 around this area, and I don't want 3 hunter in the front, comet in the back. I mean, that's a nightmare to start the game with. So I thought binding scroll, Wrath of God, no hesitation. And then he went with 4 dice Trial of Faith against the tank. Quite risky. I'm not a player that casts very often Thaumaturgy spell with 4 dice, especially a Trial of Faith that is not so decisive at this point of time. But he decided to be very aggressive and took the risk, and with 4 dice against 5 he had hit casted and did 1 wound total to my tank. So not too bad, but yeah, still effective. And yeah, that was it. The rest was not so, yeah, no very interesting shooting, other than maybe 1 vassal that died to Hunting Spear. My turn 1. So here, if you consider the situation that I have here, as I've told you at the start, I need to ensure that I can really take advantage to the left. As you can see, he has 3 hunter, he's really strong, and my answer to hunter, I don't have a lot of things, so I need to, I mean, the bull can deal with them easily, I can take some challenge, but I need to make sure that he doesn't win this part of the board. If you see the turn 1, you see that if I'm able to win this part of the board and stop this unit going to my part, that's a good win, that's a solid win. So that's what I considered, and I decided to move very strong to the left part of the board and just make sure that I use the tank as a covering piece. So I moved the tank slightly to the side, making sure that I covered all the angles, so I made sure that no hunter can move in between. Obviously a hunter can move here, but then I would have a cover with the Great Bull possibly. I used Vassal to chaff 2 units at once. I chaffed the Troll Eater guy that is dangerous for me with the Yeti unit, and also the Giant behind, because I'm breaking the straight line, meaning he could charge like here, so touching nothing. So that was interesting for me, being in range of BSB General, no risk taken on terror check, and giving a flank to this unit, moving forward with Blunderbuss, ready to shoot at them, moving back with them, taking no risk at all, just making sure that, if he wants to take a solo charge, I can't afford him being in the back of my lines, so that's too dangerous. And just making some covering option with Incarnate, Bull as well, just to make sure if he gets the charge, I can anytime get some counter charge and stuff. So that was the idea. And here on the right, I was pretty close to the Tusker. Turn around, move 4, give him 10 Swift Stride, just making him hesitate. Do you want to take the charge and maybe lose 1 turn if I flee, or if you fail charge, or don't you take the charge and then move? Then I can always use the Relentless Banner to move around and move away. So that was a bit the idea with the first one, movement. And yeah, here I think what I liked is the fact that no one of the unit that can move very freely has a good spot to take. Every spot are covered, even here with the tank I covered here in the back, so we'll see what choice he makes. In the magic phase, I get a Grave Call off against the BSB. I was pretty excited about that. First turn Grave Call against BSB, I didn't expect to have that kind of opportunity. I roll a 12 on the number of hits, double 6, so I was like, this starts well, because if you remove an 18-inch BSB onto such a list, I mean, then you can really exploit the leadership fragilities of the list. I roll for the dog first. I roll a couple of 1, but still killed him. I roll like 3-1 and then enough to kill him. And then I roll against BSB, did 4 wounds total. He had to save on a 6-up, 4-up region, and he saved all of them, so too bad, but still I removed the chaff. I made sure, obviously, that the chaff, single dog couldn't chaff both units. That was the idea. But yeah, at least I removed the chaff, and then he dispels Quicksilver Lash against the BSB, obviously. Blunderbuss did a couple, 2 wounds to the tiger, so not too impressive. And yeah, I'm very stupid because I decided to shoot with the tank against the giant, try to sneak a wound. I thought you hit on 2+, you wound on 5-up, maybe you get a wound. And then obviously what did I do? Misfire and then lose a wound. So that was very, very stupid and not worth it. Shouldn't have shot this turn, not worth it. His turn 2. So considering the fact that I lost an additional wound and that I am gigantic chariot within the forest, he thought if I charge him, I'm likely to lose a couple of wounds, not kill him in one go, and then he can strike at me and possibly kill me. So I decided to take the risk and move here to my flank. He pushes as well here, left part. Yeah, worth mentioning, they charge the Vassal. I didn't want to take the risk of him getting a 10 Swift Stride and then catch me and being on my flank free to threaten my tank, so I fled off the board. I needed a low roll, something like 6 or under to stay on the board, and I rolled bigger than that. So yeah, that's it. No big harm here. And then he pushed forward with the giant, leaving me with the option of, yeah, do you want to charge here, charge here? If you don't kill me, I'm fine. So I think that was worth it to push. He made the right decision. They move as well a bit forward. BSB stays behind Impassable. Here, as you can see, he retreat a little bit. So he charged my chaff with them. I didn't position very well with my Immortal. Basically, what I wanted to do is to make sure that if he charged onto them with the BSB, I want to have a counter charge. But I think that was not the key priority at this point of time, and I should have looked this way, because this unit cannot really charge onto the dog's unit after the chaff, and I don't like to chaff if you are not able to exploit to be aggressive after the chaff. That should be the purpose of chaff, allow you to afterwards get a charge, get something. But here my opponent made a mistake. He went too close with the giant, meaning reform will be hard with this unit, so that might be interesting. It's also worth mentioning that he's not likely to kill all of them, so he has to face maybe some kind of pursuit check, restraint check, and he could land up in some dangerous spots. So that's why he decided to back up with both. So here I thought that maybe I can get an advantage here. We'll see. Let's move on to the magic phase. What did he do? Try to face onto the tank. I dispelled it, and then with 3 dice, this time he failed the combat. He had the low dice turn. My turn 2. What happened in combat? Excuse me. He restrain, reform, kill a couple of guys. I gave a flammable token. I fled like around here, like roll 9 or 10, and that was the only combat. So my turn 2. What did I do? I needed to find a solution to block this giant that was threatening my flank, so I decided to use the incarnate and thought if I can give some buff, just a reroll to wound, he won't come against me, so I should be fine. Backed up further the tank just to make sure he cannot go out of line of sight. I still have time to manage it, and I have a short range shoot against the giant, which is nice because it's multiple wound D3, strength 5. Not bad at all. I backed up, moved laterally with the bull just to make sure I can grave call this giant who is a problem. I can as well act as counter and protect this zone, so very nice zone covered by the bull. And then I use this opportunity to reform with this guy, so I rally them. Obviously I reform with the immortal just to make sure that I'm wide enough to fight the yetis, because I wasn't in the small formation. It was problematic for me because yetis come against me, they can have a lot of attack, I don't have much, and I'm in a problem. Here if he charges me, I have Unflame, I can strike before him, I'm in a good spot. And since I needed to reform and look that way to cover all the angles, I moved the mage out just to make sure the mage can cast Quicksilver Lash against the BSB. So very nice here. Yeah, just make sure here I have a straight line to pass if you decide to take some other spot. And here Blunderbuss found a very good spot here on the left. So yeah, I took the charge, forgot to mention. But basically with the reform, he had to give me the flank to these guys. So I took the charge, obviously. Very nice flank charge. And he fled it. He fled over the giant, passes the leadership 8 with no reroll on the giant. And then because of footprint, unit spacing rule, he has to move over, but no panic check for them. Just to move over and ended up here behind. So here I thought, interesting. I can claim some space. I moved my blunderbuss out of line of sight of the yetis, blocking the giant charge, because with the wheel he would end up touching the side of the board before the anointed. So that's all the stuff that I checked just before charging, obviously. So I can shoot with blunderbuss, he can charge either them or them. I should be fine with that. Yeah, that's it about my movement. In the magic phase, what did I do? This time I used Binding Scroll on Grave Call, obviously. I used the Mark for Doom. I cast Mark for Doom against Giant, did 1 wound. Then I get Hereditary off onto the Giant just to make sure I can't charge Incarnate because I would just destroy him. And then he dispelled the Quicksilver Lash onto the BSB, obviously. Tank shot onto him. He had a flammable token, so it was 4 up rerollable to wound. Unfortunately for me, I didn't roll a 4 up rerollable, so good thing was I checked in the Infernal Dwarf book, he kept the flammable token if you don't wound him. So that was nice. At least he kept the flammable token, but I would have liked to do a couple of wounds. And then Blunderbuss shot at the giant, did 3 wounds, which is not bad, I guess. And let's move on to his turn 3. So his turn 3. He continued to be aggressive on the right part of the board, takes the giant that was here in the front, moves it towards here, and also moves second giant here. So continue to play with the forest just to try to double up the giant against the tank to make sure that he can win this fight and give a bit of freedom to the scoring unit that need to come to this part of the board. The Tusker Cav moved forward, but still careful of what the tank could do, because even a tank with 1-2 wounds can deal with them easily, so he has to be careful. He needs his scoring unit, he has no reserve here. BSB didn't move much. He took the charge with the giant onto the blunderbuss. I was okay with that, even I couldn't stand and shoot because we were too close. He rallied these guys, he was just within 18, just, and rolled over 9 the first time, and second time was able to rally them. And he just shuffled a little bit sideways with them, but here, as you can see, he cannot be very aggressive here on this part of the board because I've put so much strength with Immortal, Blunderbuss, Anointed, plus the Bull supporting them, all the angles covered. He had no very good option to put pressure at this point of time with this Yeti unit, especially considering the fact that they were fleeing. That really slowed down his aggressivity on the left part of the board. The magic phase. What happened? He cast a Trial of Face against the tank. I had to let that off. I wanted to keep my 7 dice for the Wrath of God because I thought at this point of time Wrath of God is a danger. He has still 4 dice to cast it, so I let Trial of Face. It did nothing to me, lucky me. But then I was a bit unlucky because with 4 dice against 7 he was able to get the Wrath of God in the lake. So that was a bit annoying because I'm very compact and obviously you don't like a Wrath of God in the middle of your lines. So we'll see how I can deal with that. And the giant combat, he did 6 wounds to me, I did 4 wounds to him, so I killed him. So that was nice. I was happy to deal so easily with the giant and being able to reform. And if you see the amount of single threat that he has, I was happy to reduce a little bit this amount and gain some further advantage on this left part of the board. My turn 3. So I didn't take any charges. So I really needed to support the back. I thought, if you see the picture again, I like to stay on the picture of my opponent because the decisions that I make are made during my opponent's turn. When I see the situation at the end of his turn, you're like, okay, this guy just rallied, this guy is backed off, this guy is hidden, doesn't want really to push, and the giant is dead. So I was feeling confident, I'm strong enough to claim this part of the board and slowly go forward. I should be fine. I have the steadfast, I am able to take some challenge, I should be fine. He's further back, I should be able to cover all the angles, so I'm fine. Where I'm struggling at the moment is 2 giants against the tank, that's a problem. Tusker supporting, that's a problem. So I need my magic here to ease a little bit the pressure, because if I don't claim, if I don't win this part of the board, he will be able to get the breakthrough and I won't be able to really win big this battle. So that's what I did. I crisscrossed, so I moved the Incarnate as a support to the Immortal and the Blunderbuss that push forward really. Covered each other, just making sure if you charge me I can counter charge. They move forward but carefully, just making sure no charge from the Hunter General onto them, just to make sure I can slowly but surely get my breakthrough. Here's the Wrath of God, turn around the slaves, just to make sure that if you move here, possibly I can also charge in the flank, charge in the front, cause you some trouble, you never know. And then I backed up the bull just to get Gravecall against him. And I found a very good spot with no line of sight for the second giant. So the fact that we are all gigantic means that this giant can see the tank and so can charge the tank, because you need to see at the beginning of your turn to make a charge. So that was interesting for me because I was facing, okay, that's a single giant that can charge me, a wounded giant with a flammable token. I can do stuff. I'm far away from the Tusker at the moment, so I should be okay. If he charges me, he's at risk that it doesn't go well. And before that, I have a magic face. And I was really willing to cause a couple of wounds on the model just to make sure he can't charge me. And yeah, I was also kind of chuffing just because of the wheel. He couldn't really charge stuff. I think it was impossible. He had to charge a slave and stuff with this giant. This giant could charge me. I could always flee. I mean, slaves are not that important. And yeah, that was it. And obviously I wanted to shoot again on short range against the flammable giant. In the magic phase, I cast a Gravecall onto the left giant, roll a 444 and another number, I guess a 3. So I got that off with the miscast. That makes me forget the Gravecall, but still my opponent decided to dispel that. I think if I were him, I would have let that spell off, because then you don't need to think anymore about the Gravecall, which is still an annoying spell in this matchup. So I think I would have let that off, to be honest. So he dispelled that, to my surprise. Then I tried a Mark for Doom onto this giant, but I failed. I tried to cause an Hereditary, I guess, onto the BSB, but I failed. And obviously I couldn't get Quicksilver Ash because my mage had to move again onto the unit because of the Wrath of God, definitely. And then I was able to get a +1 armor save at least onto the Immortal. So very weak magic phase. I got no wounds off onto the guy. I only got a +1 armor save here. And the Wrath of God comes down, touches 4 units, did a lot of wounds onto the bow slaves, so I don't care. Only 1-2 wounds onto them, also 2 wounds onto them because I had 2 up armor save, so I was okay. I think the combat didn't do too much. And then shooting phase. Fortunately, my tank roll a misfire, roll a 1, which is not too bad because I don't lose wounds and I gain the 3d3 grinding flammable and also gain flammable attack onto the chassis, which is nice because if he goes in combat against me, he has a flammable token, meaning I get 3d3 strength 4, reroll to wound, and 3 attack strength 6, reroll to wound. Not bad, not bad. That was kind of funny. And Blunderbuss did another 2 wounds onto the dogs, so slowly doing a couple of wounds, which is not too bad. Yeah, let's move on to his turn 4. So his turn 4. He took the charge with the giant, with 1 wound remaining, onto my tank, and put the second giant. He used the same trick that I did behind the tank. If he doesn't kill the tank, I can't charge him, so next turn he wants to make sure that he can deal with the tank by adding a second giant. Pushes forward with the dogs. Here you can see how he depleted my slaves, but yeah, not too problematic. He pushes slowly with the mage unit just to trying to ensure the breakthrough, and that move I didn't understand at all why, because if you consider the situation, he could push. I mean, obviously the tank covered the march that he could do, but still I would have moved slightly forward just to be a threat, forcing me to deal with them, and he decided to back and secure the breakthrough. And obviously that eases the pressure around here. I think he was feeling confident that he should be able to deal with the tank, and then 2 giants against the bull. The bull can't do really anything, and he should be able to get the breakthrough. I think that was his idea, just to make sure that turn 5 he can come here with the mage, and then turn 6 somewhere here, and use the giant to threaten the bull. I think that was his plan most likely, but yeah, that was not the best move for me. He should have add some pressure just to make sure that Tusker are somewhere behind, getting ready also to get some charges. You never know what can happen. He took the, yeah, I forgot to tell you, I was able, I rallied this unit, and then the turn after I was able to chaff them. So that was really nice, because it wasn't possible for him to charge with Yetis everybody onto them. Just wanted to avoid 2 units going against me, doing a lot of damage. So I was pretty happy to double chaff with a single unit. That's really good. So they charged my chaff. Again, the position, yeah, I was still seeing him, but he could be able to reform and avoid me. And then he decided to move with the, I think that's the general. Move here in this spot, feeling okay about being charged by Incarnate. Out of line of sight of Blunderbuss, and BSB stayed behind, just ready to do some counters. Yeah, here we're in combat. Yeah, I told you everything. In the magic phase, it tried to put Smite the Unbeliever -1 resilience on the tank. I couldn't afford that. I need the tank to hold a little bit. As you can see, I need time to, yeah, do some magic against second giant, do some stuff. So I need some time. So that's why I dispel Smite the Unbeliever. Then he get another Wrath of God with 4 dice. Definitely not afraid of casting with 4 dice, Wrath of God. So he gets a Wrath of God. I thought it's not too damaging this turn because he's near my line, so he's also taking risks somehow by putting Wrath of God in my lines. And then close combat, really surprised, yeah, tank rerolling to wound with all these grinding attack. I did nothing with the servants, nothing with the machine, but then with the grind attack 3d3 rerolling to wound, I did 5 wounds, which was really good. I didn't kill him, but I break him. He did 2 wounds to me, so I break him. He's hitting on 4+, wounding on 4+, so you cannot rely on that with no rerolls. So yeah, I didn't expect to do a lot. He had like 11 attacks. Yeah, he did two wounds, that's slightly below average. And then with the charge, he was losing by 2. So it was a test on the 6 with no reroll. So he failed that. I decided not to pursue, so I had 3 wounds left. I thought, So he passes the panic check, first of all, passes this panic check as well. So this one was a 9 rollable, this one was a 8 no reroll. So he passes this one, and then I decided just to reform and take my time. I don't want to risk to take a lot of DTs and then die against this combat. I have time, I'm not in a rush at all. He deals with my vassals, and let's move on to my turn 4, sorry. So, a lot of things happen. As you can see, the Yetis are not on the board anymore. What happened? I charged the guy here because I thought, very nice, General is here. If I charge with the Incarnate, I'm super null. So even if I lose, I will be here next turn. So then I can just reform my guys 5 wide, and next turn I counter charge, challenge with the BSB, I take the general. So you are, it's problematic for you. And the way he reformed with these guys, he was also blocked by the general being in the front. He couldn't. The fact that I charge, it wasn't. I don't remember exactly how he reformed, but it wasn't possible to counter charge with the troll eater guy. So I thought, perfect, because if we stick in, he has no counter charge basically. That was the point. No counter charge. I can stick in place, and then next turn I bring the immortal in. I was really happy to pin him down. So when he realized that, he decided to flee. So he flees over the Yetis, ended up here in the back, causes a couple of panic check, and he failed that 1-9 rerollable. Very unfortunate. Passes the second one. Yetis fled this direction, because closest unit were the immortals, fled somewhere around here, and I still had a possible charge with the incarnate that passes the redirect check, and charge against the Yetis, pushes them off the board, and then just fail charge toward the general. So that was huge, because I mean I had won the left part of the board at this point of time. So yeah, you see fleeing general, BSB still on the board. Next move, I push forward with the immortal, just to make sure that, yeah, your general is here. Even if you rally, I want to have an easy charge with the immortal against him. Meaning force you to take an action, either charge me in the flank or do something, because if you don't, I will catch your general. So that was the idea. Then here I chaffed the dogs to force them to charge in the flank, no overrun possible. And here I used the tank as chaff. I couldn't escape and move away, so I had to block him. So I just moved the tank in the front, move the bull here, be within 12 to cast some grave call, do stuff, just threaten him. This guy was still fleeing with 1 wound, but I had no way to deal with him. I couldn't pursue last turn because of the rule of the tank, so I had no possibility to really... yeah, charging with the bull was not an option, because then you fail charge, you do what? Nothing interesting. And I really wanted to have the bull free to make sure this unit cannot cross the board. That was the priority right now. And here you see where the Wrath of God is. Rest of the unit pushes just forward. In the magic phase, I get Quicksilver Lash. I try to get Quicksilver Lash onto the BSB. He dispelled that. Then I cast a Mark for Doom onto the Fleeing Giant. You may say, why did you cast that on the Fleeing Giant that will do nothing next turn? Reason was very easy. If you check the unit nearby, they are both out of BSB general range. So that was a panic check on the 5. That was a panic check on the 8. I thought, if he failed that one, definitely I win the game here. So I kill him with Mark for Doom. He passes the 8, but he failed that one. So at least the dogs are out of the way. They flee that way. Yeah, happy. That's still something. I kill Giant and remove the dogs. So that was still not bad at all. And then the rest of the magic, that's, yeah, Wrath of God, you roll a double 5, so 11 range, touches everybody, but yeah, nothing too damaging for me. And no, yeah, shot against the dog a little bit, and that was it. Histon 5, he decided the best way to block my immortal was to charge with the BSB, so he charged with the BSB. The 3 remaining dogs move out of arc, don't care really. These guys, they turn around, so the situation is a bit different. Now I need to support this scoring unit, because if I don't, I won't get breakthrough. So he moved forward. The shaman move out of the unit, the dogs continue to flee, didn't rally on the leadership 5, and he took the charge with the full giant against my guy here. Yeah, that was it. In the magic phase, he put Smite the Unbeliever against Immortal. I didn't care, -1 resilience, but I was feeling confident in the challenge with my BSB because of the 1-up armor save. Special attack gets AP 0 against the unit, so I was feeling okay. Obviously I won't make him flee this turn because I have no rank bonus. I have just standard BSB, he has a BSB, so I'm not likely to win. But if I can just reform and then get some static res next turn, I should be fine. Worth mentioning that he did a big mistake here by charging this part of the unit, because as you can see, the straight line at the moment is touching here. So if he would have contacted here, I wouldn't have been able to countercharge with them because of the straight line big block, but he charged to the left, which leaves me the possibility to reform and then charge in the flank. So back to magic, then he tried a Wrath of God 4 dice again against 6, but this time I was able to dispel it. And Immortal against BSB, we did nothing to each other, it was a push, he made me reform first. So he had a second option to correct these mistakes, but didn't saw it coming, so I was able to reform first and ensure that I can get a 7 no Swift Stride, no reroll counter charge onto the flank. That could be decisive. And the other combat, I was happy because I rolled really poorly. I did nothing to him, he did 1 wound to me, so we are stuck in combat, which is not bad for me. My turn 5. So I counter charge 7 no rerollable, no Swift Stride, but I get that off onto the flank of the BSB, meaning yeah, I have a 2 rank standard BSB charge in the flank. So that's plus, and he has a BSB, so that's a +5 to start with. Should be enough to ensure me to win this fight. And then I mean, there is only the general here in the back that rallied last turn. And then I push everybody forward, just make sure there is no risk that if he charged me, I failed the 9 rerollable, he couldn't overrun onto them, just to make little things that you need to make sure that there is no risk, even if he goes very bad, that I lose too much, basically. And here I position my bull such that I was out of charge range of them, but still threatening them, be able to get Grave Call against them, try to panic them because they have 7 leadership rerollable, could still panic them, and also make sure if they march forward I can get the charge off. In hindsight, I think what I should have done, just be a couple of inches forward behind the slave, just to make sure that yeah, I can be closer to him if he tries to march forward. And also, I mean, Tusker, if they charge a slave, obviously I would flee. And Tusker, if they charge a bull, then using the impassable, there's only 2 guys in contact. I think the bull should be able to handle them, frankly. And also what I liked, yeah, what was good about the position of the bull is also to be far away from the giant. Even if he frees himself up from combat, that's the end of the game, because turn 6 he can't do anything. Everything is out of charge range. Yeah, what magic phase, Mark for Doom against Tusker, try to panic them off. Yeah, no reroll, you never know. But I roll a 1 to wound, then I try to get a +1 armor save, he dispelled that, but I was able to get a +1 ward save onto the BSB just to make sure I can win easily this challenge. Close combat, the tank, I did 1 wound to him, he did 1 wound to me. Yeah, nice, we're still in combat. And here I did 1 wound to him, I guess. He did nothing to me. Yeah, exactly, did nothing to me, so he was losing by 6. He broke, fled, I pushed through this direction, and I catches him with Immortal and impacted. I needed the 10 or more to impact general, and I got that, so very lucky for me. So yeah, I was within the general, getting a lot of points here, surely next turn, most likely. 2 turns of combat with a lot of static res, I should be fine. General is only AP2, so that's not enough to deal with my BSB. Here is in combat, and here yeah, he tries to do it, so he marches. That's a 7 Swift Stride for me to get him. I left the line, obviously, to charge with ground movement, and he put these guys just, yeah, also within the zone. And that was it. Yeah, the mage just hid behind the hill. He got another Wrath of God, rolling with 4 dice, a very high number, something like a 4, 4, 5, 6. So I wasn't able to dispel that, put that somewhere in the back just to force some panic check. The tank, this time I did 1 wound, he killed me, so finally he got me. And let's move on. General, I made him flee, pursue off the board. So yeah, I dealt with the general as well. My turn 6. Charge, he passed the terror check on the 7 rerollable. I get the 7 Swift Stride to charge him in the back, so that was nice. Magic phase, I try to put a Grave Call onto them to panic them, just to make sure that I can get some easy points. He dispelled that one. Obviously that was also a little bait. Then with 4 dice I put +2 armor save on them, just to avoid if the comet comes down, I have no trouble here. And then with the last die remaining, I was able to kill with Pentagram of Pain. I did 3 wounds onto the tribesmen, just to ensure that I can deal with them. Yeah, just to make sure. And then close combat, obviously I use the breast weapon with impacted, all the stuff. I'm able to break him. It's another 8, no reroll check, and he fails it and flees. So I get some other points here, and basically that's the end of the game. Yeah, comet doesn't come down, and that's the end of the game. So that's the final picture. When we count the points, that's a 19-1 for me, with the breakthrough that I got with 3 scoring units against 1. Post-mortem, so first of all, on a macro level, I think the fact that he dropped everything to start the game, I knew that I needed a very solid left flank to secure the scenario. And that's what I did, just ensure that I was able to overwhelm him and be stronger on the left part of the board, and just force him to either move away or bring some additional forces. But I was feeling okay with him coming very frontal against me on a small part of the board. I was feeling okay with that idea. So even if he brings a lot of strength to help him, I was feeling okay with my ability to help with Incarnate and Bull early on. Obviously the engine tried to block his breakthrough. I think that was also a good idea during the deployment. And like I've told you, I was very happy to play on the little part of the map, because yeah, that was very cagey on this left part of the board, and that was good for me because he wasn't really able to profit from his high movement. I was pretty happy about how I managed his movement capabilities, just to ensure that I can mitigate what he can do with his movement game, and basically got no very interesting spot. I took advantage of his flea moves. Obviously it took some, yeah, it's always the same. If you find a good spot between the line, you need to make sure that it's really a good spot and that you're ready to stay if your opponent charge with the things that can charge you. And that's what he didn't consider, and that backfired against him at the end, because it forced too many flea moves, and then it was just not worth it at some point. Yeah, flee with general, flee early on with the dogs, all the things that it cost him at the end, I have the feeling. I use some unusual tricks for me, because as you know, I'm mostly playing MSU type of list, and in this case playing with blocks, that was strange for me to say, okay, I will use the Incarnate, charge general, even if I lose I can pin him down, and then afterwards reform, charge again with Immortal, use the static res, make him flee. So this kind of stuff that I don't do that often, so that was interesting to use that as well. Bring this tool out of the toolbox, like we can say. My list, again, I think the list gives the initiative to the opponent. That's not something I'm too happy about, but definitely, as I've told you, it was really depending on him whether or not he was willing to engage and come toward me, because I'm infantry, movement 3 with my immortal block, and also core unit, so I'm not able to really get a projection, and I'm not able really to push very strong against him. The engine, again, it's a very good blocker. The engine, I mean, it's zoning well, because you can charge with a 6. It's not swift stride, but still you're a bit scared to get charged by something that can do a lot of impact hit, and that is very resilient. So it's still scary on the charge, and it's very resilient. You saw how many time it took for him to deal with the tank. So even if it cost me the tank at the end, he did his job definitely by blocking the stuff, killing a giant mostly, almost. That was really good by the engine. And then other aspects of the game, as you saw, my opponent took quite a lot of panic check, and yeah, if you have so many panic check to take, especially he had a lot of them on a 8, no reroll, that's always a risk that it's going to backfire at some point. Unfortunately for him, it didn't backfire on a giant on the side of the board, which could have been not so damaging. It backfired on the Yeti, very expensive unit, and yeah, that was that cost him the game more or less, because after that, if you see the picture at the end of my turn 4, yeah, after the charges, you see, okay, that's basically the game is won here. Yeah, as I've told before, questionable positioning at some point with the hunter and hunter unit that led to flee moves, and yeah, if you flee with this kind of unit, that gives me the opportunity afterwards to push and try to catch you, because I know where you are going to be since you are no faint flight unit. And also this slows down the aggressivity that he had overall on the left part of the board. And I thought it wasn't enough forces really to deal with my left flank. If you consider deployment, I think he has two choices. After the deployment, it's either you move away because you have no mobility. So he could say turn 1, I move away, everything goes towards the central part, and basically I try to ensure the breakthrough in the central part of the board. Or then you are looking for something more fighty, and then you say, okay, turn 1, I chaff with tigers, and then I push really strong to the left. I bring my giant, all the stuff that I can bring to the left part of the board. I bring everything and just, yeah, chaff turn 1. I want to get some charges turn 2, so I'm getting very, very aggressive. I think that were the option, and basically he ended up taking the solution, yeah, in between both, and that cost him because he stayed too many times on the left, didn't really use his mobility to his advantage. And that was to my advantage because I was able slowly to push, get stuff, make stuff flee, catch them, get points, and not, yeah, not allow him to profit from his movement to avoid me really. So yeah, that was it for this second game. So I have a third and last game to play that will be against Vermin Swarm. I will try to do again maybe some analysis and stuff before the game. I will let you know also on my Discord when I am going to play. I have a Discord channel opened just to give you an additional option to interact with me and also to communicate with you, because at the moment I still cannot use the posting. Yeah, you can post stuff on YouTube, but you need more than 1,000 subscribers. So I'm not there yet on this channel. And that's why I need something else to communicate with you, especially wanted to give you the opportunity to see my games live if you want to. So I'm posting it on the Discord channel when are my games scheduled. So I will try to do it again, and I will just put the Discord link, invitation to the Discord if you want to join. Please do so. I will put it in the description of the video so that you can join the Discord channel and see when are my game schedules. Thanks a lot guys for watching, and talk to you soon. Bye bye.